This is something that most people putting on events forget, but like the connections and the camaraderie and the moments and those people that you meet and then continue on relationships with, that's the reason we're there. And unfortunately, most of the time we try to cram way too much content into our programs and we don't give enough breathing room and opportunity for people to meet each other.
Welcome to the Marketing Expedition Podcast, an auditory journey through the latest in marketing, branding, and advertising. Now, here's your Marketing Expedition guide, Ray Allen.
On this episode of the Marketing Expedition Podcast, I get to have a delightful conversation with Mark Mallchok. And he co-founded Brella in 1992 with CEO and President Bernadette Burke. A veteran event producer and video director, he has created engaging corporate meeting and event experiences around the world for notable healthcare, financial services, and heavy industry clients. He draws on his theatrical and film background to find compelling stories that anchor client projects and support their business and learning goals. He specializes in audience and participation engagement, combining powerful technical tools with rock-solid narrative and performance techniques to deliver unparalleled face-to-face, virtual, and hybrid experiences. Having started in theater, Mark is passionate about bringing performance into meetings and events and elevating the virtual attendee experience to be on par with in-person programs. He believes strongly in being a part of the initial strategic planning process to ensure goals and objectives are identified early and programs can be optimized from start to finish. The results of this are an elevated experience for all attendees. And having him grown up in the melting pot that is Hawaii, Mark loves to travel the world and immerse himself in the cultures and meet people that add breadth and depth to his planning and producing of experiences that engage the mind and impact global organizations. Mark is a graduate of Northwestern University's theater program and holds a prestigious CMM designation, or a certificate in meeting management, and an MMP, or medical meeting planner certificate. We are in for a treat. I just loved talking with Mark. First, though, it's time now for your Marketing Essentials moment, the basics that you need to help you continue to build your brand and your bottom line. Today's topic, I thought it would be appropriate to dig in a little bit deeper on post-event follow-up. So the 48-hour follow-up machine, how to turn every event into leads without living in your inbox. So it's common that what happens is people will go to these events, they make these meaningful, wonderful connections with people, and then they don't do anything to follow up or reconnect with them after they've been in the venue. So one thing I always talk about whenever we put on our monthly word of mouth mixers is to reconnect and follow up beyond the walls of the venue of that night. And so we host the word of mouth mixers at different business sponsors throughout the whole Treasure Valley here in Idaho. And every business that sponsors, it's great because they invite their people. We invite the people that are following along, and it just keeps growing and growing. The key to this, though, is the F word that my friend Sarah Cortez coined, the F word: follow up, follow up, follow up, right? So thinking about ways that you can structure this as a automatic thing that you will do within 48 hours, because oftentimes the event ROIs will die in the parking lot if you don't do something about it. We will meet great contacts and then do nothing consistent. And we want to make sure that we are winning beyond the walls of those venues, right? So let's think about how we can think about the people that we've met. And we don't want to necessarily treat everyone we met the same. Some people are going to be people that can maybe serve you as good referral partners, right? Or there'll be people that could potentially become clients, or there are people who could potentially become vendors, or, really good friends, right? So think about how the people that you're going to follow up with in order of priority, are they going to be kind of like a hot lead, a warm lead, or a community? Not necessarily a fit, but a valuable relationship. So of course, the hot leads, clear opportunity. We need to call them. We need to text them. We need to be in front of them. We need to create our reconnect and schedule again. If you didn't already do it, at the event, which I love to do, by the way. I love to make those reconnects happen right at the event. And my 3 C's are either we make a coffee meeting, a conference call, so Zoom or Teams or Skype, if that's even a thing anymore, or cocktails, right? Still no one's taken me up on the 4th C of taking me to Cabo, but maybe someday. The 3 C's, do a coffee, do a conference call, or do a cocktail hour if you're into that thing. So yeah, especially if they're a really hot, good, lead that that would be ready to buy from you or want to, partner with you in some way or collaborate with you in some good way, right? And warm, maybe it's a good fit. You want to nurture that. Maybe you add them to your newsletter list or, connect with them on social media, those types of things, right? And then community, of course, not necessarily a good fit now, but again, valuable relationships. So you want to continue to connect with them in a valuable way because those are the people that can refer you, right? And there's 5 R's. You can get ratings and rankings. You can get recommendations. You can get referrals, right? And then finally, you can get rewarded. So ratings, rankings, referrals, reviews, and then reward. And if you could see me now, I'd have my thumbs up, like I mentioned before in our interview. So yeah, reward those who reward you with a reciprocal effect, and it will have a ripple effect, okay? And then thinking about within 48 hours, the follow-up workflow or the process. I always say, measure what you treasure, dump what you don't, automate what you hate. So if you can automate this process in your mind and in the tools that you may use, what can you do? So same day, follow up with capturing the notes, tag people where you met, what you promised to do. Take pictures. I love taking selfies with people so that I can help visualize and remember them and tag them. We tag all of the attendees at our events on our Facebook page and send that out. We send it out, the link to all of the attendees as an email to thank them for coming, and especially if it's our event. Or if it's somebody else's event that I've attended, I follow up, I post, I share, email, I message if it's direct message. Something specific about the conversation that you may have had, a brief conversation, can then turn into a lot more beyond just the brief conversation that you might have had in that moment, right? Next day, send 3 types of different messages. Here's the thing. People connect through email, or if you're like me, my email is a cesspool of a whole bunch of spam after 22 years in business, or a text message or a LinkedIn message or some other way. Get to them in somehow, some connection, some way. Day 7, do a second touch, a value drop, send them a resource, an intro, an invite, refer them to somebody, or, hey, I was thinking of you when we talked about XYZ, this might be a good resource for you. And then just be a connector, be a source of information that they can do. We also have a Facebook group that we post into when people are looking for, hey, in our case, we needed a sprinkler guy that could come fix our sprinklers, right? And, people can respond and say, oh, I got a guy, I know somebody. And of course, referrals are great word of mouth accelerators. And so all of this to help accelerate your word of mouth advertising. And then, of course, automation. How can you make it repeatable? Can you calendar block time that you always set up, and you could do it, you could call it the follow-up power hour. And that's what you do, is you follow up on those events that you attended. Even if it can't be within 48 hours, you still could follow up. Hey, it was great to see you at that event last week. Or, hey, it was great to always give people a kind of frame of reference too. Because, sometimes people meet a lot of people. I meet a lot of people. And when somebody said, hey, it was great to meet you, I'm like, remind me. Sometimes it's just helpful when you can give that little extra, push of something. And you can create email templates that you can customize, and you can snippets for each bucket of, if they're hot leads, warm leads, or community partners that you can work with, and then track it. Again, measure what you treasure. Even a spreadsheet, even if however you want to track it, right? There's so many different tools and so many different ways to do it. We are tapping into using Go High Level. We had spreadsheets. We even had a whiteboard at one point, just with tally marks of how many people we followed up with or talked to, or, how many appointments we made, how many, coffee conference calls or cocktail hours we did. And then it starts to, unveil a pattern, like how many of those people are you meeting and talking to that then could turn into potential customers or referral partners, those types of things, right? So tracking it, measure what you treasure. And if you measure it, it is more likely to happen. And then set some reminders so that nobody falls through the cracks. One of the things I love to do is send myself voice memos. I will actually text message myself. Whatever works for you. People use Evernote or different things that they can do. We have Asana. We have, lots of different tools. Any of those tools that you think will work best for you, use them, because it's going to help you with that follow-up. And that is going to then help fuel your word of mouth advertising. And by being that reciprocating go-giver, servant leader kind of mentality, people will want to do business with those that they come to know, like, and trust. So we want to be those people who we can have building those trust factors, right? So anyway, those are some things to think about on the follow-up aspect as you listen to our interview with Mark. And you're in for a treat, you guys. Check it out. Welcome to the Marketing Expedition podcast. I'm your host, Ray Allen. I'm the president and CEO of Peppershock Media and the founder of the Marketing Expedition community. And today's guest is Mark Mallchok. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Hey, Ray. So happy to be here.
Excellent. So I will always like to start off with just asking you, how'd you get to where you are now today, Mark?
It was a long and windy journey is what it was to get here.
Yes.
So I was actually very lucky. I was born and raised in Hawaii, and my parents worked at a private school, and they were librarians. So my dad was part of the AV, side of things. They helped put on all of the events and things that occurred during the year. My mom was heavily in the theater. There was a professional theater, so she was backstage, building sets and doing lighting and all this other stuff as part of the passion of, theater. And they introduced me to both theater and film very early on. So
Nice.
I remember, like, early days, I was out, on the lanai of a neighbor's house. We were putting on plays as, like, kids, and I was in every single play that happened that needed kid actors through. And I got into, film and theater and photography. So I did all those wonderful things. And then I went off to college at Northwestern, just north of Chicago. It's in Evanston, studying theater. And I very quickly realized that if I wanted to pay rent or eat food, I probably didn't need to be an actor. So I became a director, and I did a dual major in radio, TV, film, and theater. And I loved, coaching people and directing people and producing these experiences. And then during that time, I started to get involved with the film program, which led me to doing events at these large science fiction conventions. And I just fell in love with it.
Okay, let's talk about that for a second. Science fiction convention. Tell me about a time that you can immediately remember of what happened during the science fiction convention that you were a part of.
Yeah, they were a blast. So, I was doing those through college and afterwards, and I had a bunch of friends who were heavily involved in the World Cons and the Hugos and all of those other things. And they are an experience because you get to learn every little part of it. It's a volunteer-run organization, right? So, I was mostly doing the film programs, but, whenever anybody needs help, you jump in and help. So, it's all of the weird setup and the interesting people. The most memorable are the people, right? I mean, phenomenal individuals, amazing authors, amazing people from film that you get to meet. And every year it's different and unique.
And so now all of that built up to what you're doing now. Want to share what you're up to now?
Yeah, absolutely. So immediately after college, I did a brief stint as a jouster. We can talk about that in a bit. And that was holding over until my partner, Bernadette, who's the president of Brella, graduated. She was a year younger than me. We had actually met on the varsity fencing team. Whole nother long conversation we can get into. But we loved working together. We had an amazing set of projects that we did together. We started to do some industrials during that. So that was training videos. And we decided that we really loved working together, and we really loved this idea of doing corporate work because it was a challenge. It was interesting. It was unique. So we sat down and we had this debate, like, do we go to LA and we do film? Well, the problem is you're stuck on a film for like 5 years. Do we go to New York and we get into television? We're like, well, we get stuck in a show. We could be in it for like our lives. But the cool thing about corporate events and corporate video is that every project, every day is unique and different. And so it's really allowed us to travel the world and experience a lot of different cultures and meet a lot of really cool people. And we've been doing it for 34 years now.
And it pays the bills.
It does.
Let's be honest, right?
Yep. It's that goal going back to like, I like to eat and pay rent.
Yes, indeed. So how did you land in near Chicago?
When I went to school at Northwestern, I mean, at that point, it was one of the top rated theater schools in the world. And I was like, I need to go where, the best teachers in the world are. And then again, met somebody that was of a similar mind and fell in love and started a company, and we stopped here. And it's a great place. I mean, Chicago is beautiful. I mean, obviously today it's a little cold and there's some snow out there, but it is most of the year it's phenomenal.
Hold on, wait a minute, Mark. You went from Hawaii, where it's warm and beautiful and sunny, to Chicago. Yeah.
My wife's from Milwaukee, so this was a place. But honestly, it's a great location in the center of the country. What was incredibly amusing is that when I was a freshman, they actually paired me up with another guy from Hawaii. He had never ever seen snow before, right? So the first winter and the first snow, we're all out there celebrating snow with him. My dad grew up in Cleveland, so I had been to
Ohio, yeah.
the main before, yeah.
That's awesome. Well, okay, so let's talk about some of the projects that you've done more recently and, kind of the work that you're doing now. And you said events and corporate video, but maybe just take us on a journey. Like, what's something that you did that you're really proud of for a client, and, what happened, what were the results, and walk us through that.
Yeah, I mean, so recent events, so we do a lot of corporate work. It's internal programs, usually sales, marketing, or training programs. A lot of our clients are pharma or financial clients. And we're incredibly lucky because they take us along on this journey where we start at the very beginning about what are your goals? What are you trying to accomplish with this event? What are the things that you want your audience to walk away with, having seen, heard, or do? And so we get to start at the very beginning of this process at Brella, and we take it all the way through. And the taking it through is great because a lot of our meetings are for their international groups. So I get to go on these amazing site surveys to find these locations in the world where we can accomplish, bringing together all of their people from around the world and create an amazing experience. So fabulous opportunity to do that. And then they're all over the place. So for example, and this is going to sound awful, but it's so cool because I get to bring along a lot of our team to each of these. But like our next couple of events are in Stockholm and Zurich and Paris and Athens and like all these amazing places. And what I love about that most is because it's allowed me to experience the world and bring along a group of people that may not have ever been able to, except for this industry that we're in. So it's really cool. So I guess a couple of fun things. We were in Milan last year, and we were able to come up with this idea of doing, kind of marrying my theater background to this, where the room was round. It was a very bizarre, very cool room. So it was a round room, and we were able to develop an experience where we created like this huge, long, curved wraparound LED wall. We created an entrance in the back, and we created a catwalk that walked out into the center of the room. So every presenter came out, hit a pose, strutted down the catwalk out into the audience, right? And it really broke down barriers. It made it an incredibly fun experience for them.
Very cool. That seems amazing. And it's interesting now what we can do with the screens and how they can curve like they can now. It's like, I'll never forget when I was speaking at a conference I was in Seoul, South Korea. And that was the very first time, this is like 2016 ago. Just the technology like far surpassed what I've ever seen in, Boise, Idaho, and like how it all come together, and everybody in the crowd was given a bracelet, and they like synchronized the colors to the, we had, because South Korea is where, Whoop'em Gangnam Style, right?
Yep.
is from. Well, anyway, I mean, we just, and of course we had the conference, and then that was the fun of the evening, and he, came out, and it was really fun to see that. But like the screens, like you said, were curved around, and then just, it was so engaging because now you have like this whole space that is different than what had been, previously or like normally conceived, right? And colorful, and like from top to bottom too, like tall. Taller than I am, and I'm tall. I'm like 5'9" for a girl, right? And so it was just like really cool, fun photos, and just amazing to be on a stage like that. And it was like, and all the people all around you, super, super cool. Great experience to like make it memorable for people, for sure, right?
Yeah. And it's interesting because, we've gotten so many more tools in our palette of creating these experiences than we ever have. I was literally talking about this just last month with, we were down in Orlando at a large training conference we were doing. And we had been doing projection forever. And we're like, we need to break away from projection, go to LED, because it's going to give us the ability to break up that screen into lots of small little sections. We can do slices, we can fly things, we can do different things. Yeah. And we talked about this idea that we had done this event in Bangkok, and it was cheaper to do LED walls than it was to do projection. And it gave us so many more opportunities for different things. We did one in Berlin last year where we took the wall and we not only put it in front of the audience, but we wrapped it around the side of the room. So we were able to put animations and movements that wrapped around the entire audience, immerse them in the entire experience that we were trying to achieve.
They're a part of the production. The audience becomes a part of it. That's amazing.
And that's the key is how do you make the audience engaged participants instead of just passive viewers?
That's an interesting thing. And now with like the advent of, QR codes and getting people involved in other technology that's on them, because, people are going to be on their phones. And so why not make them do something that's going to keep them in the attention there and engaged, that they can participate in multiple different ways, for sure.
Well,
go ahead.
And I was just going to say, and that's the key to all of this, right? I mean, yes, people are going to be on their phones. It is a given these days that everyone's going to have one or two phones in their pocket. They're going to have a laptop, they're going to have an iPad, they're all the things. But like, our job in events is to create an experience so engaging and so memorable that they want to not be part of the outside world, but they want to be part of what's happening in this inside world. And one of those ways is through engagement with tools like Mentimeter and Slido and, Pull Everyone, all those Acoots, all those things, because then we're playing into, I have to have my phone with me, but now I'm using it as a tool to engage with everybody else in the audience. And as long as the presenters on stage use it in an intelligent way and they actually respond back to those polls and to those responses and those word clouds, then everyone feels like their participation is part of the meeting, that it's lending to where everyone wants to go in this meeting. And they are now part of a group, a core team that's participating, and suddenly they're in the in crowd, and now they want to listen and they want to participate.
I love that because, like you said, you can see the results in real time of what people are thinking or saying, and I love word clouds for sure. Like when people put in, how are you feeling right now or whatever, and then people put, the words in, and then the bigger the words grow, the more the people say the same word, right? And so it just makes it really fun. We use that for when we record our marketing audit meetings with our clients. And you know what the number one word is that always consistently is the largest word over every marketing audit we've ever done? You want to take a guess?
I have no idea. Share with me.
People.
Of course.
People.
Great.
People is the number one largest word that everyone says because we want to attract and do business with people.
And that's why we're at a live event in the first place, right? And this is something that most people putting on events forget, but like the connections and the camaraderie and the moments and those people that you meet and then continue on relationships with, that's the reason we're there. And unfortunately, most of the time we try to cram way too much content into our programs, and we don't give enough breathing room and opportunity for people to meet each other.
And that's the key thing, is like building those connections, building those relationships in person, eyeball to eyeball, right? And FaceTime used to mean a different thing than it does now with, thanks to Apple, but like we have actual time together face to face. And then the beauty of that too is providing ways for people to connect beyond the walls of the venue.
Yeah.
And getting those reconnections and follow-ups. And, that's like half the battle. Like if you show up to an event and then you meet these wonderful people and you never follow up with them, like why did you even bother?
Lost opportunity.
Huge. Yeah. We put on, we call them word of mouth mixers once a month, and a different business will host at their venue once a month, and we it just keeps growing and growing, because every time we go to a new venue, their people come, and then next people come. And that's one of the things that I think is the most important thing is follow up. Yep. It's the F word.
Yes, indeed it is. And that is the key. And especially if you're, as an extrovert is fine, but like as an introvert, like once you've got those connections, you want to play off of those, because, it's so hard to get that initial connection. It's so hard to get that initial courage up to meet somebody. So you don't want to squander that opportunity. And the beautiful thing is, as soon as you meet somebody at an in-person event or conference, they do the heavy lifting of introducing you to a lot of other people too. So again, it's even more of a reason not to squander that opportunity.
I call them raise 5 R's. So it's giving people ratings and rankings, referrals, reviews, recommendations, and then rewards. And if we had the camera on, you'd see me with a thumbs up with rewards, because we want to reward those people who do those things on an ongoing basis, for sure.
Absolutely.
It helps sprawl and fuel word of mouth advertising.
Want to start a podcast but don't know where to begin? At Poderific, we don't just produce podcasts, we help you create auditory experiences that will captivate your audience. Our state-of-the-art podcast recording studio, powered by Peppershock Media, is designed for creators like you. Record with high-quality equipment supported by our expert team, and distribute your podcast across major platforms like Apple and Spotify. Whether you're launching your first episode or you're a seasoned podcaster, we got you covered. Visit Poderific.com today to learn how we can help you produce, record, and share your story with the world. Your podcast deserves to be Poderific.
So, okay, tell me a little bit more about the clients you serve. You said that you're in the financial space, or they are the financial advisors, I'm a little curious about, kind of the type of industry that would do these types of events. Like, give me that example. You don't have to give away the farm, but just give me an example of like what purpose they have, and how do they function, and who's it for, basically.
Absolutely. Well, it falls into two major categories. And again, primarily it's financial or pharma. And we fall into either the sales and marketing category or the training category. The training category is very easy. That is, train the trainers or training your field force in how to do a certain thing. And it's most important at that point to really engage with your audience, because you're trying to usually cram a lot of content into a short period of time. So on those, we're really working to find an agenda that has some breathing room, that really gives opportunities for exploring learning science and how you actually will retain information in the best way possible, and do it through repetition and so forth. So training is a large part of what we do as far as in-person, large sessions, workshops, breakouts, opportunities to practice what you're learning. So that's the training side. The sales and marketing side tends to be a lot of meetings that are either before a large congress and we're doing a pre-con, or we're doing a product launch and we're introducing people to what it is that is new and out there. And those, we're really trying to reinforce a couple of things. One is the importance of what you're doing. So there's a lot of client, customer, or patient journeys that we do where we have clients, either patients that come up, I'll use pharma examples, for example. Like patients up on screen in video recordings that we've done, or on stage, and really to understand the importance of what people do in the organization, what those things that they do, spending day in and day out and all that time away from their friends and families to work through this thing has an impact. It has something that allows there to be an impact or a change in the world in somebody else's lives. So we do a lot of those as well that are big, beautiful programs that really try to elevate the experience, engage with people, and remind them of why they're there and the importance of what they do.
Well, and I can imagine in pharma, there's a lot of maybe statistics or things that could otherwise just be, kind of drab and boring. So you have to do things to make it memorable, like you said, and get people interested in the results, or I imagine like clinical trial results, or people who've, taken a particular kind of medication and then the results of that. And I could imagine that not everybody in the room are going to be like the decision makers, or maybe they are, or maybe they're the decision makers, but not the end users who would then prescribe. Or so now you have to like open the door for your audience and make it good for all the different types of people that you might have in the room, right?
Right. Make it accessible to everybody there from any level, because you're right. You're going to have medical folks in there for medical affairs and the scientist side of things, to the salespeople and those extroverts that are out there connecting with, HCPs or patients. And, I think that's the thing that is interesting, going back to our LED screens, right? One of the things we work the hardest on is to determine what are the goals of meeting and what are they trying to accomplish, but at the same point, trying to protect them from themselves a little bit. Most of the time, presentations are these huge, eye charts of information where there's too much detail, and we're constantly coaching our presenters and our teams that sometimes less is more. Sometimes a big, beautiful picture that engages and tells the story is more important than a lot of the details that they can find in a study. Link them to the study, have them go look at it, but really connect with them on the big picture visions, the big ideas, the concepts, and do that through less text on screen, more visual and infographics, and also at the same time, don't try to cram too much in. People's heads are going to explode, right? They're going to get too much information in the first 10 minutes, and then the next 50 minutes of your talk is useless, or worse, right? You've got 2 hours of information you're trying to cram into 1 hour, and you're talking through it so fast that nobody can understand a single thing, and they've given up and they're just zoning out, and this doesn't make any sense. So just calm it all down, cut it down, hit the highlights, and do it over several sessions and over several moments, and just keep reinforcing it, but
Multiple
don't try to go too far, too much.
It sounds like there was a time where I was working with a group of investors who they would invest in companies that are startups that or depending on what round they're in. And they'd have me work with the founders of the company. And generally the founders, not always, their slideshows, I mean, they're novels of what they would put up on there. And they're just reading from the slides and not presenting to, because people want to buy from people. People want to invest in people. And so, I would work with them to tell the stories and, like you said, visuals. And when I look at them and I say, your PowerPoint slide needs to be like a billboard. 5 words or less. People are driving by at 65 miles an hour. They don't have time to read the billboard. You want your most important key points and visuals to like drive home the ad, right? And they look at me like I'm crazy. They're like, what do you mean I only can have 5 bullet points or 5 words on the screen? What are you talking about? I'm like, no, you don't understand. We want people to look at you and pay attention to you, not try to be losing focus on trying to read your entire, novel of a PowerPoint slide. And I just remember these conversations with those that had a really hard time giving up their slides. It was a comfort. It was like a blanket for them, because then they could just read the slide and not actually engage, Yeah.
And again, if they're reading, they're not listening, right? If they're trying to process what they're reading, they're not actually engaged with you as an audience. I remember there was a recent, this was last fall, there was a program for a financial institution that we were doing, and the president of this group was up talking. And what he did was wonderful, because it really played into this. He went up there with a handheld microphone. He sat on a stool in the middle of a big empty stage, and every now and then he would play a video clip and he would talk about the video, but it was all telling stories and connecting with the audience. It was phenomenal. He reached out and asked people questions and had them raise their hand. He asked people in the audience that he knew was there, and it was a 500-person audience. And he would ask a specific person a specific question. He would listen to the answer and he would talk about it. And it was amazing. There was no slides, there were no eye charts, there was not huge amounts of data about how the company has been doing this year and what we need to do next year. It was connecting on a human to human basis.
I love that so much. And you're right. I mean, when people can tell a story, it can be much more memorable, and you can retain it because now you can repeat that story. You probably can't repeat the statistics and the what is that, like 98% of statistics are made up? But you can definitely repeat a story much easier. It's just able to, and in short form too. I mean, especially nowadays, everyone, to your point, just wanting engagement in a different way and being entertained, but while also trained. So like edutainment, if you will.
Yeah. And stories are wonderful. Like I love stories. I was recently talking to a group about introverts and how you can have engaging presentations. And obviously coming from a theater background, right, I have a little more skills in being able to memorize stuff. But my best way and my best suggestion is come up with a dozen stories that, talk about what you're trying to talk about, and just remember the key points of those stories and have a couple of bullet points, but then just go from story to story to story. It'll be the most engaging presentation you'll ever do. It'll be the easiest presentation you ever do because you're not trying to remember all this stuff or hit your key points. You're just telling stories, and the stories have impact and they connect.
One of the speeches I had to give, it was kind of like TED Talks, but it's called EO Talks, so Entrepreneurs Organization. And the best piece of advice that I got was, if you imagine a room and you have your lamp here, you have your couch here, you have your end table here, you have your, let's say TV here. And as you are talking to the audience, you're talking, and you're visualizing in your mind, okay, you're going to tell the lamp something specific. And then you can memorize what you're telling the lamp, what part, a key point that you're doing. And then now you're going to talk to the couch. And now you're going to turn and you're going to talk to, the end table. And now you're going to turn and talk to the TV. So now suddenly it looks like you're, addressing the entire audience. But really you're visualizing in your mind what each component is. And it really helped me memorize, because I usually am a content expert speaker. I don't normally have to memorize. I can just speak to whatever topic, my 5 bullet points, and I can share stories on those things. Like you said, just, remember the key points. But when you have to have like a nice, sort of TED Talk style, I mean, they memorize every breath. They memorize every blocking moment, every single thing. And, I won't lie, I still had to improvise a little bit because I was not as like a trained actor, that can memorize lines. But it did help quite a bit because I could just look at these things and remember each item, in the room that I could speak to. And I don't know if that's something that you've learned or if anyone's ever taught you that, but I thought that was just the mentor that I was working with to like get this speech done, right? It was brilliant for me just to be able to, like, how in the world am I going to do a 15-minute talk,
Yep. Well, amusingly, so this has happened twice in the last couple of months, one just this week. So I was at a webinar, I was listening to Lauren Waldman about the science of learning. And she gave this example of how people retain information. And there's this, you have the immediate, very ephemeral stuff that lasts for maybe 15 seconds. You have one through repetition that you can learn it a little bit longer, but there's other tips and tricks. And she gave an example of something, and I heard this actually in that same meeting with that president. There was one of the speakers who talked about how to remember things. And she gave these 8 words on screen. And the way that I do this and the way I recommend people do it is create a mental visual picture in your mind of this. So in my mind, when she popped these things up, I saw in my mind there was a zebra that was connected to a cart that had a canoe in it. The zebra was wearing a bandana and sunglasses and was eating a sandwich.
Okay.
And those were the words. It was zebra, sandwich, cart, canoe, bandana, right? Like all of these things that like, there's no way. Like if I had not tried, and it's the same thing I do with remembering people's names. Like when somebody introduces themselves to me, I have to do something to make it stick in my mind. And for me, it's a visual. So like I write it down and I look at it and I've got it, right? And each person has something
name
unique.
association.
Yeah. So, I love those. They're great ways to kind of make everything work for yourself. And again, from a talking standpoint, I love your recommendation of like, come up with, a story in your mind that is tied to a visual object that you will go from thing to thing. And those things that you see in your mind trigger a story that you then talk about.
And that finally was what finally worked for me, because I was struggling to make things in a cohesive story that would go from thing to thing. So it was a good tip.
I love that tip. And the other thing I love for big audiences that have helped to calm me down, and this, it's interesting that I call myself an introvert, because I truly am. Like in personal life, I'm an introvert and I'm a business extrovert, right? So I trained to become an extrovert by
an ambivert. You're an ambivert, like in between.
There you go, right? Yeah. And the way that I love to approach a large audience is exactly what you do. Is I focus on eye contact with one person at a time. I just make that contact one time, but I do it 1,000 times over for that audience, right? So now it's very easy. It's simple. I'm connecting with one person. I do that every day. That's an easy thing for me to do.
There you go. I know. And there's always people in the audience that, they'll shake their head, yes, and they'll like really be engaged. And those are the ones you kind of gravitate towards, because you almost rely on them to, laugh at your jokes in the right moment, or,
Yes.
It's good for sure.
And it's how you bring them into the conversation. Like, it is very hard to be bored and apathetic if somebody is looking you in the eyes. Right?
Agreed.
And the ones that are, most bored, like if you do eye contact and you talk directly to them, suddenly they're like sitting up straight or they're leaning forward, right? Because they have to.
Yep. And voice inflection has become really something I've been paying attention to. I teach the National Student Advertising Competition class at Boise State, and my students have to present a pitch to, in this year, the client is the NFL. So they have to pitch their campaign. And we've been working a lot on just voice and like, if you talk really softly and maybe somebody's going to pay attention to you, but then if you get really loud, then, you've got like a big point to make, and we've been working on that quite a bit, and it just makes such a difference. And just like some of my students are just kind of quiet anyway. And so you have to really get them, what would I say? Get comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Yes. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. Well, how about share one more story of just some client success, or just something that comes to mind that's like, I'm so proud that we did this, or we accomplished this, whatever that might be, and kind of walk us through it. And then we'll have to. It's already like, wow, we're going on time, but and then we'll
because it's fun more to talk.
Yeah. Tell me some more. Give me more, Mark.
Give me more. All right. I'm gonna go completely off the rails here, and I'm gonna go back to the pandemic. So, so before the pandemic, we were doing a lot of in-person live experiences. We were all very comfortable with it, and then the pandemic hit. And suddenly we're in this incredibly uncomfortable position because we're, at home, we're not meeting with people. We're talking into a box with, a microphone, right? Yep. We're just very uncomfortable with this. And we slowly got more comfortable, but we did this project, and I remember it because it was one of the most successful projects that we ever did during that time, because the client really bought into the challenge, and they allowed us the freedom and flexibility to try a lot of new things. So it was a training program. It was a train the trainer program. And they said, you know what? We've already allocated the funds for this. Let's try to push the envelope and really engage with our audience. Let's try to find ways to make this feel very much like an in-person event. And so we did a lot of learning ourselves. We researched out and learned how to program a bunch of platforms. And what we did is we recreated the experience of being in person at a big, larger in-person event. And so what we did, we programmed this platform. We created visual elements that reproduced the experience of being in a room. So we had a large, auditorium space. We had like dozens of small little breakout rooms. We did all of these things. And then the beautiful thing is that the audience really got into it and really were part of this experience. And it was incredibly successful because we had the time and energy and money to be able to spend on it, but we were reproducing something that they were comfortable with. That was an experience that they didn't suddenly have to get in their heads and think about being on camera and doing all this stuff. It was very natural and something they were used to. So we did large auditorium sessions where we did it like a broadcast studio. We were using, I think it was OBS at that point, but like vMix, where we created like a broadcast television show for them with virtual presenters from all over the world. We sent them really great equipment so they could set it up in their garage or in their home office. And we coached them through doing that. We had a whole help desk and registration area that people could come to if they're having challenges, and people would help them out. We did large like breaks of food. We would send them food, gift certificates for back then it was DoorDash, right? We did all these wonderful things. We did little breakout get-together meetings where they could come in, talk to a senior leader, talk to a speaker, engage them very closely on what they were doing. And it made it feel comfortable, unique, engaging, right? And it was hugely successful. And the beautiful thing about it was that it also allowed people to come from a larger area, right? So we had a study that we had actually done during the pandemic where we looked at a series of like all employee meetings or national sales meetings or all staff meetings and large training programs. And the data was incredible, right? We would, in the in-person times, you would have the set number of people who could come there from around the world, the countries that could afford to send somebody to Europe, right? And usually it was like 1 or 2 people. As soon as we opened it up to the rest of the world virtually, the first year of virtual, we doubled the number of countries that were participating and the number of attendees. The third year, we doubled the number of countries yet again, and we did 6x the number of people that were able to participate. So this just shows that if you look at a problem from a unique way, if you try to find a creative solution, if you look at the goals of what you're trying to accomplish and the challenges around, the audience that you have, and you find creative ways to bring them in and make it memorable for them, you can do a lot of wonderful stuff.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I remember you just had a flashback. It's a good thing this time to the pandemic time. But when you were describing, those experiences, I still remember doing, and I've done lots of wine tastings and things like that. But we did one with a whole bunch of ladies together, but with the winemaker on screen, and they sent us the flight of wine, right?
Yes.
And so then we got to do wine tasting because we couldn't go to the winery, right? It was, against the law, rules, whatever. And so but it made it memorable. It really did. And we had some fun trivia. We did some fun things, and we got to hear about all the wines, and of course it really did make me buy more wine. So of course. Well, but yeah, I mean, those types of like group experiences or just things that are, I guess we have to do it. So we're going to make it work this way, But
it brought the human connection back in. I remember one we did several of these where we did cooking classes together. And what was great about it wasn't the fact that everyone cooked together and they got a box full of food, and that was wonderful, and they met a famous chef and they were able to do it. Yeah. But my favorite part of it was when they were done cooking together, they all took their laptops and iPads and phones into the dining room, and then they served the meal with everybody's families.
Oh, wow.
And everybody got to meet each other's families and talk and see that this was a communal experience, even in these times that were very dark and very, separated and restricted as far as who you could see and was in your bubble. It brought humanity back into it.
Yeah, you remember the meme that was floating around, or introverts, check on your extroverts. They need a hug.
Yes.
I very, very much needed hugs. I'm very much an extrovert. I love people. And yeah, that was an isolating, awful time. So I'm glad that we made it through it. But yeah, you're right. Making those connections and just like, we did I forgot what we called it. We called it like a shut-in shindig.
Yep.
On Zoom once a month, and we started getting people from all over just to like, get out of the funk of not being around people. So we just did like a networking kind of fun thing, and we called it the shut-in shindigs to just like, and people thought it was funny or whatever. But I met some people, and then when I met them in person, I had to like remind. And of course, when I met them in person, sometimes we were wearing masks, so they would know who I was. But I'm like, hey, you have to remind me, And I was just reminded the other day that I met somebody in person, for the first time, but had been on one of my little shut-in shindigs, and her name is Michelle, and she's like, do you remember me? And I'm like, I think so, but you gotta like tell me or whatever. And she's like, that was the best thing, because I, like a lot of people were going through this isolation, and she's like, I looked forward to them. You got me through it. It made me feel so good that we could do that. And then we ended up connecting, and now we're actually going to meet up again in person.
Yep.
And it just makes me happy that people can make those connections
And I think that's the key now for in person as well. Is like, don't lose those learnings that we had during the pandemic. Like, it was so important to connect with people, over virtual during that time. It's just as important now to spend the time to get to know people when you're in person. Like, have the room to do that.
Yep. It'll be interesting. And the next generation of students too, like if you think about it, the ones that are about to graduate in their formative years, right? 5 years ago, 6 years ago, they were in middle school, and, that was right during the time that they should be learning and growing and going to their first, 8th grade dance and whatever it is. And they didn't get to have that. And so it's interesting now to see what the next generation of our workforce and how they're going to work differently than anybody else before us, right?
Yep.
They've obviously, they're digital natives. They grew up with this, so it is fascinating to see our different generations and how it's going to impact everything that we, especially since the boomers are retiring rapidly, and then the next generation's coming in, and it'll be fascinating to see a social experiment.
I agree, and how we need to rethink how we connect with people, because attention span is so different. I grew up where I was perfectly fine sitting through a 2-hour movie and I could get engaged with it, right? My 16-year-old niece can barely watch 10 minutes at a time. And that's, because she's been trained differently. We all now have like 10-minute attention spans. We need to be changing up our content every 10 minutes. We need to be playing a video.
I'd argue even like every 2 minutes,
Yeah. Exactly. And if we have a presenter who's up there for more than 44 minutes, we hit this point where, it crosses over into boredom, right? So we have to be very careful about making things bite-sized and nuggets, and that's not good or bad. It's just the way it is for a certain type of audience because of how they were raised.
Right. Yep. Well, speaking of short content,
which we don't have right now.
No, it's all good. It's all good. People can pause, and people tell me all the time, yeah, I put it on 2.5, or 2 times the speed.
2 times speed, so that we're all talking very much like this. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Mark, any last words of wisdom that you'd like to share with our marketing audience today?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is go out and experience being a audience member. I think that's one of the biggest things I've started to do and reinforce is, we often live in this bubble, and go out and be an audience member, be a participant, like sit in an audience, see what impacts you, what works, what doesn't work, right? Just like everybody else next to you. And let that actually guide you into how you create your next experience, because I think we sometimes don't put ourselves in the audience's shoes, and I think we need to walk in their shoes a lot more.
Yeah, I agree. I like that a lot. Be an audience member to absorb and learn, and then you can apply what you learn as you've done that. That's great. Awesome, Mark. How can people reach out to you or find you, or tell us all the deets?
Yeah, I mean, obviously reach out and connect with me on LinkedIn. You can visit Brella.com, our website. It's got links to webinars and podcasts and thoughts and things. It's an easy way. Or just email me at mark@Brella.com. So that's BRELLA.com. It's like umbrella without the pause and So just email me. I love talking about this stuff, and I love connecting with people.
Where did the name come from, Brella, by the way?
Long story short is when my partner and eventually wife and I started the company, we were young and poor. Remember that whole, I'd love to be able to find a job that I can eat and pay rent. We had a really old car. It only had an AM radio in Chicago. The only thing we could get was like an oldies station. And we were struggling to come up with a name for the company and also a song for ourselves. And luckily, both happened at the same time. Aww. We were listening to the radio, and we're talking about this, and Bus Stop by the Hollies came up. It's about this story of two people coming together under an umbrella to fall in love, right? Aww. And that's what we wanted for the company, was a place that employees and clients could come together under this umbrella and create something magical and memorable.
Oh, I love that. That's great. Great story, Mark. Great story. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Mark.
Yes, and Ray, thank you so much for hosting me on this. It's been an amazing conversation. Hopefully, the people listening get, some insights and some ideas and ways to make their events and experiences more memorable, engaging, and fun for the participants.
Yes, sir. Awesome. And for those of you listening, the best thing that you can do for Mark and I is share this with others that you know that need to hear what Mark had to say today. And go give us a review. That helps us with ranking and get more people with listening to the show. And until next time, everybody, enjoy your marketing journey.
Thanks for listening to the Marketing Expedition podcast. Want to continue the journey? Don't miss out on new episodes. Subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. Wouldn't it be great if there was one place you can go to get all the latest information and tips about marketing and advertising? The Marketing Expedition community is that place. People like you gather in our online community to build relationships with others and find the latest marketing trends, tactics, tools, and technology. We help you build your brand and your bottom line. Start your adventure today. Visit themarketingexpedition.com to find out more.